Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is King Jordan. Sorry we were having technical problems. And without further ado, let me please introduce to you, he is the former bodyguard of Michael Jackson, current bodyguard of William Shatner, The Dream, and Miley Cyrus. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Mr. Mike Garcia. Good evening, Mike, and welcome to King Jordan Radio. How are you?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
Okay. Obviously, we don't have some questions from the callers, but we do have questions that I did want to get to with you. And the first thing I wanted to get before we get into any other stuff is, when did you start as a bodyguard?
Well, as a bodyguard, I've been working here in Las Vegas for quite some time. I first came to Vegas in '97, and then just started from there, and just basically just started off doing a weekend deal, and then I got more into the training and got more focused about it, and then of course, Mr. Jackson was my biggest client in 2006. Right,
and like I think I said, can you tell our listeners who else you have bodyguard for?
I've worked for The Dream. I've worked for Miley Cyrus. I've worked for Lindsay Lohan, William Shatner, Bob Saget, a number of the Lakers, some of the people from BET, a lot of people, mostly in the entertainment, and then I have a small client list of just high-profile businessmen.
And I would say it's basically based out of where you're at, right?
Absolutely, here in Vegas.
Oh, okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, besides MJ, is there any, without getting into names, is there anybody that you had some issues with that you said, you know what, I can't handle him or her, I'm just going to, have to walk away from this situation? Were you ever involved with anything like that?
Not necessarily. I think it's smart for every bodyguard to kind of weigh his pros and cons as far as dealing with the client. You have some bodyguards who absolutely get too involved with their clients, and that's by their own actions, and then they get into their own kind of mix of trouble and whatnot. I try to keep myself out of the trouble and just stay focused on my job, and that's regardless of whoever they are or how their personality is, I'm basically there just to do my job.
Absolutely. And in 2006, you started with Michael Jackson. How did that all come about?
Basically got a phone call, and wasn't told who it was until I got to the house. And, when I got to the house, I saw the kids first come down the stairs, and then Mr. Jackson came around, and I got introduced to him. And basically it was supposed to be a weekend job, and it basically turned in, a lot longer than that.
And you're talking about the house in Carrollwood, of course, right?
The house on Monte Cristo, the first house.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so this is 2006. Obviously, you did get a chance to see him interact with his children. Can you tell the listening audience what kind of father Michael Jackson was?
Well, I've been dealing with a lot of celebrities and high-profile people, and I might say that Mr. Jackson was probably, if not the best father figure that I saw with the children. I think I stated in another interview before about how we were getting food catered to us when we were staying out in Virginia, and he wanted to wake up every day and basically make breakfast for the children every day, and that was his thing. You know what I mean? I used to take the kids personally by myself to Circus, so the kids can have a good time on the rides and things like that. And he would call me continuously throughout the entire time because he wanted to know what they were doing, what they're eating, how were they behaving, and other things like that. I mean, very, very hands-on, very, very into what he was doing. And I think, and he was very proud of what he was doing.
Proud in what sense?
I think he loved it. I think he loved, as much as, sometimes he would talk about how worn out he was. I mean, you're talking about a single father of 3 kids. And, but I think he loved it more than anything. And, he was very proud, to be, the father that he was.
And you did sit down with Ryan Smith and Diane Diamond, Steve Manning, and some other people. I want to play you just a short little clip of that, and I want to ask you something about that on the other side.
Now, recently, on behalf of HLN and In Session on our sister network, True TV, I sat down with a round table of experts to discuss the case and Michael Jackson's life. On that panel, investigative reporter Diane Diamond, Anthony DeCurtis, contributing editor for Rolling Stone, Jackson's former bodyguard, Mike Garcia, and one of his best friends, Steve Manning. First up, we talk about Jackson's molestation trial to help us find out who was the real Michael Jackson. Let's take it to the trial. And as Mike just said, Mike, you feel that trial should have never happened.
Oh.
Diane, what did you think?
Well, I'm listening to what the former employees and friends of Michael have said about him never wanting to go back to Neverland because he felt raped. I know some members of the prosecution team who would say he didn't want to go back because he had been exposed. I'm not saying that Michael Jackson was a pedophile. A jury ruled that he was not.
Thank you.
But in my book,
and if you knew him,
I outline several years worth of interviews that I did with lots of young boys and their families that were too afraid to come forward and press charges, that all told the same kind of stories of how the child was manipulated to come and see Michael Jackson, manipulated to be alone with Michael Jackson, and maybe the adults in their lives were overprotective or overreacting. But Michael Jackson made the first charges go away, as I outline in the book, by paying $30 million. Who does that? And don't tell me he had a lot of money then, because he wasn't working at that point.
It could have been for legal advice. Diane gets finished. Did you finish it? Mrs. Jackson bought Johnny Cochran. I had a conversation with Johnny Cochran personally about this. Mrs. Jackson bought him in late before they settled that, and he begged her not to settle it, but he wanted to just go away. Right. And he regretted that later on.
That is just not true. Johnny Cochran and Howard Weitzman negotiated that monetary settlement with the first young boy.
And Johnny Cochran asked him not to settle.
That's just not of the fact.
But a lot of things that you're saying is hearsay, because I was with him when he went to the lawyers and things like that. And
You were there in 1993?
No, I was not there in 93.
I was there in 1993.
But the things that you're saying is hearsay. And
No,
I've been with him with lawyers, and I know that he did, like what he's saying.
I'm not going to speculate Johnny Cochran. He told me because Mr. Jackson did bring him in like that.
Right.
He begged him not to settle. He just wanted to go away.
Ryan, that is not the fact.
That's what I was told by Johnny Cochran personally by his mom.
Absolutely.
So I'll leave it like that.
Mm-hmm. Mike, you're saying that what Diane is saying is hearsay. Why? What did you learn from Michael Jackson?
She's saying everything that the information she is saying is things from secondhand. Like I said, if you knew Mr. Jackson, you know he didn't do it.
Okay, so then what's the real story? Why do we know that?
I sat and talked with young boys. I sat and talked to their families.
If you
That's
knew
not
Mr. Jackson,
secondhand.
you knew he didn't do it. You knew his gentle nature, and you knew that
and
he was.
And you weren't there in 1993, and I was.
Child, you know what I mean?
When did you first start working for Michael Jackson?
So what? He had a Ferris wheel.
When did you first start working for him? Did you work for him?
In 06.
Okay, he wasn't even at Neverland then.
If you knew Mr. Jackson, you knew that he didn't do it. That's all I got to say.
You were not even around when he lived at Neverland.
Diane is talking about kids or, and families. Like, they're not bringing suit. They're not doing anything. Like, what is motivating them?
Well, who's not to say that their parents didn't push them on them? You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that could have happened.
That's right.
You're sitting there pointing things out and, this and that. But at the same time, because I'm going to be honest, I get asked that question a lot. When people find out that I was with Mr. Jackson and things like that, do you think he did it? Absolutely not. He was a very gentle man.
Diane, isn't it true, Diane, that the Ryan?
Okay, Mike. First off, I want to say that was great defense on your part. Diane Diamond, I spoke about with Tom Mesereau, Mr. Mesereau, last week, and we have concluded that she is obsessed in the life of times of Michael Jackson. What's your thoughts on Mrs. Diane Diamond?
Actually, I really don't have any thoughts on Miss Diamond. I mean, I wasn't a follower of hers. I was never a fan of hers. And I met her that day. And, everything that she says is basically, like I said, is third party. So with that being said, she doesn't really have any concrete facts off anything, and she's in the media. So, she's going to, stir things up and get things out there and all that kind of stuff. So, I just, what she's saying to me is not facts. To me, what she's saying, there's so many variables that can go into it. So I just kind of look at it as in, it's her opinion. She's entitled to it. But, I have a difference of opinion.
Absolutely, and she has no friends in the Michael Jackson world. She only looks at one side. But
right.
I do have a question from the chat. Daniel in Puerto Rico asks, so since the phones aren't working, can you please ask Mike about an incident in 2008? He says, in the MJ Opus, Wade Robeson claims to have invited Michael and his children to a barbecue. Since Mike was working for at the time, can you verify that?
I
don't know anything
about that at all.
Or were you at this event? That's the question.
No.
Okay. So, with that in mind, Wade Robeson, about almost a month it'll be about a year, came out with these claims. What did you think when you heard it?
I think there's always going to be claims for years to come. I think when it comes to Mr. Jackson, a person who, he wasn't known for, he didn't stand up to a whole lot of people like he should have. But, he was such an easy target. And I think that you're constantly always going to have claims, and that's basically what they are, claims.
I agree with you 100%. Let's take a listen to what Whoopi Goldberg said on The View that day, actually, when he was on the Today Show. And I want to get your thoughts on the other side.
We want folks to know. Now, choreographer Wade Robeson was one of Michael Jackson's biggest defenders during his 2005 child molestation case. But now he's trying to file a lawsuit against the Jackson estate. And he made some really shocking claims on the Today Show today. Take a look.
Did he perform sexual acts on you? Did he force you to perform sexual acts on him? What was the nature of the abuse?
Yes, exactly what you said. He performed sexual acts on me and forced me to perform sexual acts on him.
How old were you when it started?
7.
And how long did it last?
Till about 14. There's no excuse for what he did to me, and I believe many others, but he was a troubled man, and every effect has its cause. Michael Jackson was, yes, an incredibly talented artist, and with an incredible gift. He was many things. And he was also a pedophile and a child sexual abuser.
He says that he's not doing this for money.
Really?
Yeah. I'm just telling you what he says.
He is suing the estate for money. I don't know what that means. I thought it meant he wanted money.
Do you guys think that ruins his credibility if he's asking for money while coming out?
He could be prosecuted for committing perjury. Because, he testified under oath, but most attorneys say that probably won't happen because he says this was not repressed memory. He really did remember it all, but now that he has a son and he thinks about it himself, it's all come out and he feels he has to talk about it. I'm not sure why.
Well, the thing about it is, he put out a message. He said, if my coming forward can help other people to not feel that shame and come forward, then it's all worth it. And I think that message gets a little tainted by when people hear that you're suing the estate for money. And then it kind of takes away a little bit of the empathy that folks might have if this is indeed true. And plus, and then also, because you testified before that Michael Jackson never did anything to you, unequivocally never touched you, you have a person who's deceased. He can't defend himself.
And also, which is it? You know, which is it? You said one thing, and everybody said, "Oh, okay, we got your back."
But he was a kid, and you talk about brainwashing. You're talking about a very popular figure. You're talking about somebody.
He wasn't a kid when he testified.
No, but he said Michael had talked to him through it over the phone and talked him through it and talked him through it.
He said Michael Jackson told him over the years when he was younger that if you tell, then we're both going to go to jail for the rest of our lives. So he knew to say nothing happened. This is when he was younger.
Because he has a son, he had 2 nervous breakdowns, and then he says, I started to imagine what would happen if this were my son who'd been sexually abused, and I began to realize that my unexplored feelings, I'm quoting him, were a problem. So I felt I had to come out and do the right thing. But you're right, the fact that he's also asking for money, you know.
If you guys don't know who Wade Robeson is, he choreographed the You Got Served movies, and he was also a judge on So You Think You Can Dance. Yeah. He's a very, very famous choreographer.
And he worked with Michael Jackson.
And also working with Michael.
It would have been a lot easier for him to let this lie, for sure. After all these years, it would have been easier just to keep his mouth shut. So you got to, it's hard. He's also a public figure to come out.
I mean, if it didn't happen, I don't know if it'd be easier.
Wasn't suing to get
he should have. I just mean the fact that he's coming out, it's not easy on him to come out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well,
you know what I mean?
but as Whoopi just said, it's not easy to come out. He says he's doing this because it's his truth, it's the right thing to do. And we might feel a little differently about it as Whoopi, just if he wasn't also
but what if that's where it hurts them? You know, what if that's where the Jackson family feels the pain, or the estate feels the pain?
Let me tell you where they feel the pain. They have gone through this 4 or 5 times. People keep suing. They say, oh, it happened, it didn't happen. There was a trial, many trials. Yeah. And now the man is dead. That's where it's hurting them. Yeah. Because he can't even say, now hold up a minute, buddy. There's nothing to be done.
And 2 children.
3. And 3 children, yes. And this now lives out in the ether again. You know, I get that people need to get it out there, but if you have the opportunity to tell the truth, tell the truth.
You mean even now or even
people are ready? People are not ready to tell the truth.
I understand, but don't wait until the family starts suing and then try to get money from the family to it just is too convoluted. I have to read this because the Jackson.
Do you believe him?
Well, he's not. You know, Michael's not here to defend himself. That's the thing.
So I'm going to go with the dead guy. The Jackson family, we have to let you know, is denying it vigorously. Okay, so here's another thing that's much lighter.
Okay, Mike Garcia, what is your thoughts on Whoopi Goldberg's take of Wade Robson?
Well, I think Whoopi Goldberg's right about the fact of, you know, he's an easy target after he's passed away.
Right.
And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before, is the fact that, you know, especially with him being gone now, he's an easy target. He was an easy target when he was alive, and he's more of an easy target now. So, you know, like I said, you know, everybody has their thing about Mr. Jackson and how they can make money and all that kind of stuff. So, if that's I guess that's his way of trying to do it, you know. But, you know, if he's not in for the money, then why is he suing?
That's the $1 million question. Yeah, you know,
she hit it right on the head. If you're not, you know, I mean, you know, the thing is that when people sit there and they say, oh, well, you know, when it comes to Mr. Jackson and making $1 off of him, a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm not trying to, or I'm not this or that, because they know about his fans and how the fans will look at it as well. And, you know, unfortunately, there's going to be another guy that's probably going to come out of the woodwork and say something and, you know, this and that. But what can you do? Mr. Jackson's not alive. And, you know, and to me, I think it's all false.
Okay, how do you feel about the estate coming out with more music, i.e. Tupac and Biggie? Now they have Escape coming out with unreleased Michael Jackson songs. Is it good from the standpoint that the legacy still lives on, or is it bad that Michael maybe did not want the fans to hear these songs? Which angle do you go by?
I think Mr. Jackson would want his fans to hear the music personally, you know, and that's why he made the music, was for his fans. So I don't really see anything wrong with, you know, releasing the estate releasing music, from Mr. Jackson. But, that's everybody loves Mr. Jackson's music. Why wouldn't you? Bob Marley passed away, but they were still putting his music out. Like you said about Tupac, same thing. So these are great, icons in the industry. Why would it be any different from Mr. Jackson?
That's a great thing. That's true. But the first album, Will I Am, did have a little issue with it. But I totally agree with you. All his hits were hits. And that leads me to my next question. How did you feel about Mr. Michael Jackson, the musician, his music, his work?
Well, when I was with him, he didn't do any shows. So the only thing in which that I really got to see him perform was the studio in which that we built, in the house that had, wooden floors so you could slide around, and the camera equipment and things like that. And that's pretty much the extent of me really getting to see him perform. And of course, when he did the photo shoot for Italian Vogue, I got to see him do some of his moves and things like that. But honestly, I never really got to see him actually perform. I wish I could have. I mean, I'm sure I would have had a great seat. But I think his work ethic and watching him, at home practicing, it's just, the guy's perfection. Mr. Jackson is very, very on point to making sure that everything he does in a show, number one, is for his fans, but, he wants to be perfect. He wants to be known as the greatest entertainer. So, to me, I think he is the greatest entertainer. His music will always live in my heart. I was at a gas station the other day, and they play his music, and I'm at a restaurant the other day, they play his music. So anywhere you go, you're going to hear his music, and that's the beauty of it, because it's, it just shows you how much of an impression he made on this world.
Oh, no question. I mean, you go to any party or, where they're playing billiards or something like that, or a club, you're going to hear Billie Jean, you're going to hear Beat It, Thriller, all those songs. And a lot of people feel Usher, Chris Brown, and a lot of others, they grew up watching MJ, and a lot of their style can't be compared to Michael Jackson.
Absolutely. What you see now on TV, and that's the amazing thing, too, is the fact that what you see now in today's artists, there's a little piece of Mr. Jackson in every one of them. And that just shows you the magnitude of his influence in the music world.
Oh, absolutely. Is there a song that you think about, like, is there one favorite song that you would say that, they're all good. That's like trying to pick it.
I just had a number of songs just running through my head right now. Honestly, I don't have a particular favorite because I think he's just a musical genius, and his music is just hit after hit after hit, and it's hard to pick just one. But I'll tell you what, Billie Jean. Anytime I hear Billie Jean, it just still gets me going,
And I guess I'm sure you were, like me, young when Thriller came out. I guess, did you rent that when it came out?
Oh man, I had the Thriller jacket.
You had the jacket also?
I had the Thriller jacket. It was black and it had the red trim on it. And I remember telling my mom when I was a kid, and and it was a real blessing that I got to tell Mr. Jackson, this story. But when I was a kid, I used to, go to the store with my mom and go to where the gloves are, the gardening gloves, and beg my mom to give me, to buy me a glove so I could kind of bedazzle it, so I could have a Michael Jackson glove. But I never got a chance. But yeah, I've been a fan of music since I can remember. And one of the blessings too, when I was with him was being able to tell him that when I was 18 years old, I grew up in Hawaii next to Aloha Stadium, and he was doing a concert there, and I was going to work.
Really?
Yeah, I was going to work, and I was able to hear him singing, in the stadium, and I remember standing there next to my car and just kind of listening to it, listening, to the concert across the street before I went to work. And, like I said, it was a true blessing that I was able in life to really, tell him that, and he got a little chuckle out of it.
You also sat down with Ashley Banfield, I believe, on ABC's Good Morning America, along with 2 other security guards. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And there was a point that you guys might be coming out with a book, and there was some rumors after that the book is gone. Is there any update on that?
Well, I'll tell you what. I've been approached several times about doing that book, and a book of only my experience, and not glorifying anything. And
right.
I couldn't find anybody who wanted to donate the book to charity, to children's education and stuff. So everybody that I talked to was basically in it for money, where I didn't want to do that. So I probably won't even ever come out with a book, and that's okay. But I'm doing other things in the charity work-wise for children.
Oh wow! What are your thoughts on how the kids turned out, Prince Blanket and Prince II?
I haven't talked to them, in a while, but I tell you what, those kids are amazing. And I really think that they're going to go on to do huge, huge things. Prince, since day one, of course, Blanket, and, at the time, Paris was just a little, she was a little shy, but Prince, you could definitely tell that he just had it, and he's going to go on to do huge things, I think, in life. Definitely. He's very focused. He knows what his daddy taught him, and he's going to go on to do a lot of things. And back then, when he was, 10, 11 years old, it was like talking to a teenager. I mean, he's very, very intelligent.
Yeah, and if you remember the trial, some of the testimony, they showed the private movies of Michael, and you could just see from those movies that he had such attention to detail with his children, concentrating on Paris, concentrating on Blanket, concentrating on Prince, asking what they wanted to be, and he really, really, just from afar, you could tell that he was devoted to his children.
Very devoted to their education, and on being humble in the world. He knows. Mr. Jackson knew, that these are, Michael Jackson kids, and he knows that the response in which that these kids were going to get, once they get out into the world, and he really humbled them a lot. He really taught them to say thank you, and to be appreciative of everything, and and stuff like that. So that's why I really say with everything, with their intelligence and what he's taught them, when Prince. Prince, Paris, and Blanket, when they get to that age, they're really going to be a force to reckon with.
No doubt. You met Conrad Murray, right?
Yes.
And you didn't know all this stuff was going on until you saw the testimony. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, this guy, Conrad Murray, he went on a paid interview in Australia and basically threw Mike under the bus, saying that he drank it all, and it's been proven otherwise that even if you drink it, there should be no effects. He didn't have a monitor, simple things that you and me could figure out. Just downright, I don't think in any way did he mean to kill him. Or AEG, I don't buy into that, but I think he was very egregious in his way, in his care or lack of care of Mr. Michael Jackson. What's your thought on Conrad Murray?
Like I said on the other show, I believe that he just listening to the trial and finding out that
Right.
he said about everything that he was doing. I mean, the guy was doing everything from going out to nightclubs here in Vegas and telling people he was Michael Jackson's doctor to, wanting $150,000 a month. And I mean, and you saw the pictures in the room with Mr. Jackson. $150,000. He should have had a lot better equipment. He should have, he could have hired help. He could, there's a lot of many things in which that Conrad Murray could have done. I don't know Mr. Conrad Murray personally. Like I said, I've only met him, but from what it showed, during the trial, like you said, egregious and just greedy.
Yeah. That wasn't the Conrad Murray you met, right?
And it's pretty, no. Because when I first met him, he was very appreciative. I mean, he was appreciative just to be in the circle amongst us. And I think he just got too comfortable, and I think that he started thinking about his own personal gain, and and in doing so, he let a legend die.
Yes. Absolutely, and he takes no responsibility, and that's what really hurts a lot of people.
And I think, Jordan, that's the sickening part of it. There's no compassion. There's no anything for his actions. I think that's pretty sickening.
Yeah, 2 years in jail too for killing.
Yeah,
for killing the world's most famous icon.
I think, and I think that if you're a doctor, of some sort, and especially when you're doing a private practice in a house and things like that, I think the penalty should be a little bit more stiff.
Oh, no question. I mean, unbelievable. Like, I listened to that tape, and I just wonder why Mr. Alberto Alvarez, he was in a panic. God knows what we all would have done, but do you think if he would have said, we have Michael Jackson here, let's get him here, he said, we have just, a 50-year-old man here, and he did not, say it was a celebrity, would you have said, it's hindsight 2020, of course, but in that instant, would you have said, I have Michael Jackson here, get here quick?
I think Alberto handled it perfectly. I think he did exactly what he was supposed to do. I think he talked to the operator and said the things that he needed to say. At the end of the day, there's a 50-year-old man that's ill and about to pass away, regardless of who it is. And I think Mr. Jackson would understand that too. So imagine if he did say Mr. Jackson's name in that recording. They would play that over and over and over and over and over and over again in the media. And, it's kind of good in a way that it wasn't said, because all the media would do was basically torment them about, and play that recording over and over again. I think, I worked with Alberto a few times, and, he's very professional, and I know that he cared about Mr. Jackson and the kids a lot. Yes.
Was he there when you worked in 06?
Yeah, he came out here. He came out to Vegas a few times, and we worked together, and and things like that. And we got along. I thought Mr. Alvarez was a great guy.
And if you believe the prosecution, Mike was already gone. Many of the prosecution feels that Mike was gone already by the time 911 already came. So it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
And that's true. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and I didn't really want to comment on it because I'm not too sure of what was going on at that time. But like I said, I think Alberto definitely handled it perfectly and professionally.
Yes, we have Jolanda. Maybe you could ask Mike what his fondest memory is of Michael Jackson.
What's my fondest memory of Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
When we spent a lot of time out on the road, I think definitely would just have to be the intimate moments. I think it's the intimate moments when riding in the car. Those are kind of the memories in which I have from him is the memories of us riding in the car, us going to the movies, and when we're out there in Virginia, lighting fireworks and having a good time. I think it's more the intimate times of, seeing this great person on a level in which that, many people don't get to see. Like I said, he wasn't performing or anything, so it was really, I have many memories in which that, it's just of him in conversations, the funny things in which that he would say, or, and those kind of memories are what really, tears me apart inside of, him not being with his kids right now, or people coming up with a new case against them, and, and all these other things, my memories of Mr. Jackson is definitely the intimate moments of just us being us and making jokes and traveling and sitting in traffic and, all that kind of stuff.
You did state on the HLN program that you have a good way of body language telling, and you could tell that Michael would never abuse a kid in any way. Can you elaborate on that?
The way that I see it is you can kind of tell, I'm in the profession of, basically nipping things in the bud before they start. And it's definitely watching a lot of people and when their reactions, everything from their eyes to their hands. And Mr. Jackson, was not, there was children around which, when we went places and things like that and whatnot, but you could just tell that he was not like that. And I think what it was, in my opinion, after spending time with him and whatnot, I think that children were his only thing in which that he could trust. And he knew that they weren't going to try and take advantage of him. And he knew that they didn't want nothing from him. It was the innocence of it in the sense of, I don't have nothing to worry about. And I think with him not having a childhood, that's where he could relate. And be a kid himself. And, people always ask about that. Do you think he did it? Do you think, and not at all. I really genuinely at the bottom of my heart feel that he didn't do it.
The people have what's called a guilty conscience, Pedophiles usually have a guilty conscience. They'll try to hide, you know what I mean? So if Mr. Jackson was a pedophile, he wouldn't go on TV with the kid because he'd be nervous in the back of his head, say to himself, oh my God, they're going to think this, they're going to think that. If he was that...
Jordan, people don't understand that when there's, the video in which that he's talking about, the slumber party, I think, when people staying over at his house, and you see him, and you watch that video, and you watch him, and he's explaining, where people are laying down and sleeping and stuff. And that's out of pure innocence.
Oh, no question.
That's out of pure innocence. And people can't realize that or want to realize that, or, they'll make their own jokes or whatnot. But, like I said, Mr. Jackson's an easy target. So, to a grown man who didn't go through, you can't compare a regular man to Mr. Jackson because Mr. Jackson didn't grow up like a regular man. And, I really don't believe he did anything.
Right, and back to what I was saying, the pedophiles will at least, if you read up on them, they would have hundreds and hundreds of victims. It says here in some books that I read up on, hundreds and hundreds of victims, not 3 to 4, and not all wanting money.
Right.
I don't know if you caught, there's been a lot of cases, but Jerry Sandusky, for example, there were 10 people that testified against Jerry. There were 48 that wanted to testify, but they couldn't because of the statute limit. So that's my point about Michael Jackson. You would have kids, and thousands of kids would have complained, and
Absolutely.
not go to a lawyer. I mean, the first thing, if your son, like in the 93 trial, you're going to want to get is a baseball bat. If you think your child, you're not going to a family attorney. So that's very troubling. And in the second case, it's almost identical. They go to the same lawyer. They say it happened after the Bashir, after everybody's watching him, after the spotlight's all over Michael Jackson. That's when he's going to decide to become a criminal. It's almost hilarious that they would actually charge him. And the jury didn't believe it. They rejected it. 14 votes of not guilty.
Mhm. Yeah.
And even people in the media came back, like Aphrodite Jones, and she said, "Look, I was wrong. I look back at the evidence, and she knows that this was a witch hunt, like it is for a lot of high superstars, and he was the target because I think he was just so vulnerable to everybody. Maybe you could tell I'm wrong or not, but I think he was so vulnerable to people and trusted the wrong people, and that's why he found himself in these situations."
Absolutely. That's exactly the way I feel about it. People just took advantage of him.
Yeah, it's very sad, and a lot of people, want, a lot of people should just let him rest in peace, i.e. Wade Robson.
I think everybody should let Mr. Jackson rest in peace. I mean, I can't stress it enough, but what Mr. Jackson brought to this world is more than any human has ever brought. And people. I lived in the Middle East. They knew about Mr. Jackson. I mean, everybody knew about Mr. Jackson and what he stood for, and that's a powerful thing. At this point, I don't know why people want to publish or make accusations of anything of his life after he's passed. He's got 3 children who are still there, and this guy's Robinson's talking about, he has a son now. Well, look what you're doing to these 3 children, and you're saying one thing, and then now you're saying another, and Prince, Paris, and Blanket, they got to go through this the rest of their life. And to me, I think it's really unfair. For what he's brought to this world. His children are around. You're going to get some type of publicity, dealing with the name of Michael Jackson, and I think everybody that's out there right now that's doing things, I think they're only in it for themselves, and I think it's pretty sad.
It is a very sad commentary. He definitely wanted to go on with that tour. I don't know as far as how many dates, but it was also
all these interviews that I did during the Dr. Murray trial. For HLN, the interviews in which that you showed, and Anderson Cooper and stuff. Like, I did everything for free. Everything.
Right.
I did everything for free because how much more does this guy got? To me, what I'm taking away from the whole experience is the fact that this man came through my life. To me, money and possessions, that's not living. That's not life. That's money and possessions. That doesn't make you rich. And unfortunately, other people, have different views about it. And we're still, I think we're always going to deal with people coming out with, publications, with accusations and claims, and I think we're always going to deal with that, and that's the sad part of it. But hey, there's a thing called karma. There's a thing called God, and He's watching, and everybody makes their own bed.
Oh, no question. And speaking of celebrities, what is your take of Justin Bieber? Obviously, he has his share of running into the law, and did you ever work with him or see him?
No, I never worked for Justin Bieber. I never met him. Never met him or worked for him.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, my humble opinion is that he just needs to be around a better structure, a team that's more better structured than what he's dealing with right now. That's just a lack of management, in my opinion. And you can say, oh, well, he's going to do what he wants, but there needs to be a little bit more authority enforced.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of the things that just
and don't get me wrong. I mean, Mr. Bieber is definitely responsible for his own actions. So.
Yes, but like you said, at that age, his father, basically buying, drinks is the greatest thing to go.
Yeah, I saw that. When he got arrested down in Miami or something, that his father was with him. I was pretty shocked about that. So, I mean, there's nothing you can really do about it. I mean, they're going to get themselves into trouble. They're going to have to deal with it.
Oh, no question. William Shatner, he's from Star Trek, right?
Yes, sir.
And how was he to deal with?
Oh, Mr. Shatner's great. Mr. Shatner was fantastic. He definitely has a great sense of humor. Very humble man, and I like clients who are like that, who are just very humble about themselves and don't take themselves too seriously. And he introduced me to his wife and and all kinds of stuff, and I was really I really appreciate that. And seeing people of that stature, being so humble. So Mr. Shatner was, he's a fantastic guy. And there's nothing better than driving down the freeway going 70, 75, and you can hear, his voice behind you. So it's always a fun thing.
The Dream. Can you tell us about him? A lot of people might not have heard of him. I have, but
yeah, The Dream. He started off as a producer, and he's made his way into doing vocals and things like that. He wrote the song "Umbrella" for Rihanna. He wrote all the single ladies for Beyonce. He wrote and co-produced with the Jay-Z Justin Timberlake song "Holy Grail." So he's had his hands in a lot of things, and I think he's due for an album to be coming out sometime this year.
Sounds like Pharrell.
One of the things I do like about I call him Mr. Nash. One of the things I do like about Mr. Nash is he doesn't take himself too seriously either, and I think that he's going to continue to do big things in the music industry. He's not a late night partier, or he's not, we're not coming in at 6 in the morning kind of deal. He's very focused, and he doesn't go around with a big entourage or anything like that. But I can tell that he's very focused and he's very serious about his craft.
Oh, that's the way to do it. And are you a fan of his music?
Yes, yeah, I like his music. The guy's versatile. And talented. So, yeah, I like his music.
Were you a fan of, or are you a fan of Snoop, Dr. Dre, and Tupac, and guys like that?
Oh, that's my generation. That's my generation. So.
Hey there.
I remember in the mid-90s in the nightclubs in Los Angeles.
Waiting for Dr. Dre to come out with the next album.
What's that?
We're still waiting for Dre to hit the next album. We know he has the beats, but still waiting.
Everybody, but that's a pretty cool thing, though. Everybody's waiting, and you just want to take your time. That's But
yeah.
God bless you. As far as as far as their music and stuff like that, that's my generation. And like I said, I remember in the mid '90s in Los Angeles, there wasn't a nightclub that you couldn't go into that wasn't playing that music.
Oh, no question. Gin and Juice with Snoop Dogg. Nothing But a G Thing. These just legendary hits, and with all due respect to Lil Wayne and some of these people that come out now, you know, I just don't compare it to that era. You know,
back then they were telling stories. Now they're just talking about themselves.
Exactly. You know, who could forget Ice-T? Today Was a Good Day. You know, that's a classic. And Snoop Dogg and Tupac, that song that they collaborated together. Yes. These, you know, when Tupac came out with an album, it wasn't just 2-3 songs that were good. The whole album had meaning to it, like you said. You know,
unbelievable. Yeah, a true talent. I mean, a true talent. You know, and there's only in the music industry. You know, you got some people who need to be told what to do, and then you have some people who just know what to do, and they know how when they should come in the song and when the beat should be there. And Tupac was one of them.
Miley Cyrus, what is your thoughts on how is she working with her?
Well, I worked for Miley during iHeart Radio here in Las Vegas, and then she did an opening for a venue out here, and I worked for her for that as well. To be honest with you, I think Miley's a very professional woman, who just really knows what she's doing. She knows about the industry. A true pro on the stage. And the thing about it is that she's got a great, fantastic voice. And
yes.
You could say what you want about her, but I think she'd probably be within the top 3 or maybe the top 5 in today's artists as far as having such a great voice. And she's going to go on to do big things. And one thing, some of the things I like about her was just how professional she was. She's very alert. She knows what's going on. And I wish her all the luck in the world.
And she had a couple of incidents that people thought were over the top, i.e. Brooklyn, the Music Awards, where she dressed up. You know what? I think she accomplished what she wanted to because everybody talked about her and her record sales went up.
Yeah, and that's basically what I tell everybody. What I tell everybody is you can say what you want about Miley, but she shot up to #1 in everything. I mean, everything from ringtones to the pop charts and everything else. So, and what she did, was it really that bad?
No.
Yeah, when you follow music, you can kind of see the fact, that there's many artists. I mean, look at the outfit that Cher wore on that battleship. That was insane. But you know what I mean? So they're gonna take pop shots at her, and that's what the media does and whatnot. And she's gonna continue to keep being Miley, that like she should be, and she's gonna go on and do big things.
Oh, no question. Your thoughts? A few more, we'll let you go. Lindsay Lohan's new show on Oprah. Did you catch it? And if so, what's your thoughts on it?
I haven't seen the show. I heard about it on Oprah, but she's another one. She's very, I get a lot of the same questions about Miley and the same questions about Lindsay. And to me, it's just a matter of the fact of those are two very professional women who are very serious about their craft. And Lindsay is just young. She's in a wild town, and just there's media everywhere. I personally don't like working in Hollywood, just because of that.
Really?
Because of the media and because it's a circus. So it's and it's a town in which that it's very hard to have friends in. So You know, she can't. You know, she's a true actress. You know, her friends are true actors and actresses. So when you look at who she is, you know, take away her young, you know, wild ways, or however you want to put it, and just really look at who she is. You know, the girl's never really come on TV and, you know, totally, you know, made herself look bad or anything. So she's a true talent. You know, I think she's going to go on and do huge things. I think that she's going to be in the entertainment and TV. I think she's going to be in that for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, she definitely picked herself up, and it's great to see. You know, this country, we like to give second chances, and that is definitely the case.
I think Lindsay and Miley are the type of girls where it doesn't matter what you're going to say about them. They're so driven that they're going to continue to get success, and they're going to, you know, continue to perform for people. So, you know, again, you know, it's the media just getting their pieces in, and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Now, when you were with them, like, give me a day in the life of being a bodyguard to a Lindsay Lohan or a Miley Cyrus. Are you literally a bullet vest for them? Because there's a lot of nuts out there. I'm sure you realize that by now. But has it ever gotten crazy?
What I do, there's a difference between bodyguarding and executive protection. What we do is executive protection, and it's a craft, and it's definitely getting your client out of situations before they happen. So a day in the life is basically making sure that your client is just not seen by the wrong people, and they're not doing anything crazy. These are two women These are two women that do nothing but work, and they're constantly on a timetable of where they got to be at this hour, and then they got to be here, and they got to be there. So it's just a lot of that, and basically watching them, making sure, you know, that we have plans to go anywhere, that, you know, everything is done before, you know, we get to these locations, and, you know, there's a lot of security measures just to take care of it, which I really don't want to go into detail, but you know, just doing a lot of security measures to secure their safety.
Right, but overall, in the was 97, you said?
When I came to Vegas?
You started working as a full-time security guard?
Full-time, I started full-time was actually Mr. Jackson. That was my full-time. You know, I understand here in Las Vegas we have a lot of celebrities and music artists and things like that come here, and they're only going to be here for about 5 days, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. You know, so actually full-time bodyguarding was actually with Mr. Jackson.
Oh, okay. And
before that, I was doing a lot of, you know, I had my own clients and things like that as well. And, you know, and then I got into training. I went to the Middle East a little while, and then came back. So. And
during that interview with GMA, one of the guys said that you guys brought him and maybe a lady friend back in a limo. Is that true?
In our SUV, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. That is definitely, because that's on record. So there was definitely Michael was hanging around with women.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. He would never really he would never tell us her name. He would just call her friend.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely.
Right, and his manager actually swore in the Bible that he confided into him, Frank something, and he said in no way, because of, you know, some books they might have came out and said he was gay and this and that, and No, says the manager. He said he confided to him, basically that he, didn't want to make one girl, I guess for lack of a better word, jealous, so he did what he did, but he kept it low-key, as he didn't want to hurt no girl's feelings. Do you think that's accurate on some levels?
Well, it definitely could be. He didn't like, getting anybody upset, so, or jealous. So it could be true.
Absolutely, yeah. And I must say though, you were asked a lot to come on. A lot of people did ask. So, did you have a message for the Michael Jackson fans that do care so much for you that are listening right now?
I just want to say that, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate the support that I got throughout the Dr. Conrad Murray trial. That was a very hard time for me, emotionally, just, going through that, and I couldn't believe what was going on and things like that. And I got a lot of emails from people just, telling me to be strong and things like that. And these are Mr. Jackson fans. They're not, they don't know me, but but it really touched me a lot that they reach out to me, and still to this day that they reach out to me, whether it be Facebook or regular emails and whatnot. And I'm very blessed to be in a position in which that that Mr. Jackson's fans appreciate me. And I could go on and on and on about it. But it's truly a blessing, and I totally appreciate the fans, and continue to keep doing what Mr. Jackson stood for, because I know I am. I'm doing my own part of what I've learned from Mr. Jackson. So basically, to the fans and everybody else, I really would just like to say thank you very much. It's a hard thing to do, to go on national TV by yourself, and and deal with all the negativity and people accusing me of this and that, and whatnot, and he's doing it for the money, and and things like that. And his fans really stood by me, and I truly, to the bottom of my heart, I appreciate that.
I remember one incident where you were sparring with Nancy Grace, where you were upset that they put his body like that on TV, and Nancy said, "Have you ever prosecuted a case?" And she knows, obviously, you never prosecuted a case, but I guess the emotion of that really did upset you, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the main thing in which that I, went and did these interviews was for the simple fact of how they were portraying Mr. Jackson on TV. Nobody needs to show, Mr. Jackson deceased like that on a gurney. For what? Unless it's your own personal gain, unless it's your own, it's a TV studio who's trying to get ratings, or things like that. And, it was just despicable. And, I watched her show a few times, but I wasn't about to let her bully me, because it wasn't about me being, wanting to be on her show. It was just, sticking up to Mr. Jackson.
It's more of defense for your friend.
Absolutely, for Mr. Jackson.
Because that's what, I asked Tom Mesereau, why did you go on Jay Leno? I mean, out of all the people that go, well, he said he spoke with Grace, and he spoke with Michael, and they gave the green light, and he wanted to defend Michael Jackson, not so much give Jay Leno the props. This is after the acquittal in 2005. That's why he went on Mr. Leno's show. Not that he had any love affair for Jay Leno. He certainly didn't, but he wanted to set the record straight. And I see that with you. And
I feel like it's my duty, I looked out for him and his kids. I mean, it touches me, to this day, it still touches me, the fact that Mr. Jackson, he believed in me and he trusted me to take his children to like circus and things and, do all these, things for him and, and for him to open up and, so.
He was strict when it came to his children, and to trust you must have been a very big honor.
I'm totally honored by it. I mean, when I tell people, about that, they can't believe it, and I tell, and that's fine with me because it is unbelievable. But I did all the interviews, just like I said. I'll always defend Mr. Jackson. He was great to me. He was good to me. You know what I mean? And I'll always continue to defend Mr. Jackson. And that's why I just look at all these things that are going on nowadays with, like you said, with the claims and publications and people coming out with books and, let Mr. Jackson, let him rest. He deserves that. Too many people look at Mr. Jackson for their own personal gain, and that needs to stop. This guy is giving, everything he has to this world, and let's be a little bit sensitive to his children. Number one, and basically, let's let Mr. Jackson, rest.
That's what I got very upset with.
There's nothing more that anybody needs to know about him. Let's not forget he is a man, and let's not forget he does have children. And let's not forget that he does have a family. And so let's people need to stop taking their own personal gain and trying to expose certain things. To me, it's just bad taste.
That's why I got so upset with Diane Diamond. Here we are in 2011 at that particular time, and she's still talking about it. At this particular time, the name of the program was "Who Was the Real Michael Jackson?" And, that would be time to reflect on all the positives, not negative allegations which were proven to be false.
There's nothing negative that needs to come out anymore. You don't need to know about his finances. You don't need to know anything. That's personal things. Those are personal things. And to me, you have to respect that. You have to respect him as a man, and respect his family, his kids, and those type of things. And unfortunately, people don't see that, and people like Diane Diamond and things like that. They always I guess, in life they have to have something that's going to make them a name in the world. And
they're bringing up a book.
What's that?
Trying to plug a book during that segment, as I outlined in my book, blah, blah, blah. And then you said it was...
And that's all she was doing. Yeah, that's all she was doing is basically, let me try to pump up Diane Diamond as much as I can on a grand scale about the man that's known around the world.
Exactly, and she had the nerve to say, I would always know that I would be around to see when Michael Jackson was dead, words to that effect. And I'm saying to myself, did she really just say that? I mean, come on now. Is your heart that black?
Well, Jordan, they all backtrack. If you watch the Nancy Grace, she started to backtrack.
Nancy Grace called Michael Jackson her friend.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't, maybe she was, I don't know, but when I hear that accusation, when people say that he was a friend of theirs, the question that comes to my mind every time is, well, where were you?
Exactly.
There was nobody there. There was nobody there.
And you pointed out in Neverland there was supposed to be a lot of people, and half of the people showed up. And after he passed, it was like everybody in America loved Michael Jackson. Where were you in 2005 when he was going through the worst time of his life? Exactly. Those are the people.
Jordan, when I went to the funeral at the Staples Center, that was probably the question in my mind. One, it was, I can't believe what's going on, and two, where's all these celebrities that's here? Where were you at? I mean, there was a few, don't get me wrong, there's a few that came out of the house. But, you know, where you know, you're sitting here crying and everything, but where were you?
Right. I mean, it was cool to like Michael Jackson, according to the media, after he passed, and he had that big, beautiful thing at the Staples Center that you were at, and everybody with such beautiful comments, but where were they in 2005 when he needed them to come on the mic and say, this is, you know, I know Michael Jackson, and he's not a pedophile. He's not this.
Right. Nobody came out. Yeah, nobody came out and said that. Everybody's worried about their own, you know, their own careers, you know, so.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to sit here and blame and this and that, but that's just something that always stood out in my mind.
Well, we're glad to have you, and we hope that you will come back again. And thank you so much, Mike.
I appreciate you having, you know, taking the time, and thank you for having me.
Yes, and sorry for a little technical earlier. Okay, Mike. We will speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the great Mike Garcia. And Monday we will have Miss Adina Howard. Take care, everybody. This is King Jordan. At King Jordan, at Mr. King Jordan on Twitter. Take care, ladies and gentlemen.
He was a very gentle man.
Diane, isn't it true, Diane, that the Ryan father had pushed him this whole thing, charges? He later admitted that his father made him put those charges?
No, that is not true. That was put out on the internet that the first young man recanted, which was absolutely not true. That came out after his father committed suicide. And people said, oh, look, his father committed suicide. See, Chandler's gone. It was all a hoax. Mr. Chandler committed suicide because he had a degenerative disease that was robbing him of his ability to stand up, to speak, to swallow, or to think.
I wish you could have went to Neverland in your family. It was something for families. It was a beautiful place.
Or New
I'm sure it was a beautiful
I'm sorry
place.
you couldn't have
But
the opportunity.
Mike, with all due respect, you started working for him in 2006.
Right.
He didn't even live at Neverland.
Right.
You don't know what went on at Neverland. I don't either.
You know,
I just know the people I spoke
when
to.
you're that embedded with somebody 24 hours a day, like I said, there was no entourage. There was no entourage. It was us, Mr. Jackson, and the kids. And when you're embedded with somebody like that, you pick up on things. I have a great attention to detail. Okay, I watch I watch how everybody does everything. There's no way that he did it. There's absolutely no way. And him being a child himself, you know, you want to talk about his house at Neverland, and he had this and he had that. He probably had it for himself first. You know,
absolutely.
So that's where I look at it.
But no, Ron, the bottom line is, like I said earlier, the trial killed him. That drained him. He was dead already.
And he saw a lot of things as far as how people
turned against him.
Absolutely, turned their backs against him. I mean, I heard that there was a party, you know, after the trial, and it was supposed to be 1,000 people. Only 200 showed up, and he saw a lot of things. He saw a lot of people's true colors. And it was, you know, you know, I mean, honestly, we didn't get paid for several months, and that we stayed with the guy because we saw his naiveness and the way he was being treated by media and everybody else, and the control. The guy was, you know, a heart of gold.
Let me ask this of both of you. You both spent a lot of time with Michael. Did Michael ever spend time alone with boys? The rumors that he was in bed with boys, with other children.
I never seen it myself.
You never saw any of that.
The only children I saw him with was his own, and he was a great father.
Family, and the kids, relatives.
And you do know, Ryan, if indeed the charges were true, and now let me say it this way. You do know, Ryan, that a child molester does not molest in front of other people. They're very secretive, they're very crafty. Anybody at the FBI who wrote the profile on what a pedophile is will tell you that they are the most charming, fascinating, engaging people in all of criminal life. They first must seduce the parent to get to the child. I'm not saying Michael Jackson was a pedophile, but to say, oh, golly, he is such a nice guy and he's so sweet and he's like a child himself, that could also be a crafty subterfuge.
And to also
for
get it from secondhand as well, though.
But Diane, for all
I mean,
the
you're
jury
going
of
off secondhand knowledge.
I look at both sides to everything, and I know that angers some people.
Yeah, absolutely. But the Santa Barbara jury found him not guilty.
And that's a good point, Steve. And that's a good point. So, Diane, why was he found not guilty then?
Because I think the state did not prove its case. I sat in that court every single day, and the case that was filed became so complicated with conspiracies and phone numbers and phone trees and this and that, they forgot to just tell the story and let the jury decide on
those are very serious charges. I mean, an all-white jury, too, in Santa Barbara. I mean, a black guy.
It wasn't in Santa Barbara, first of all. It was in Santa Maria. It was 120 miles north of Santa Barbara.
All right, well, I'll ask this one other question. And Steve and Mike, let me get your thoughts on this. It's now, as Diane's saying, it's been documented that he paid families of children that accused him of child molestation. So the question...
She said he didn't come forward. She said one family, the guy Ryan.
Okay, but let's assume it's one family then. Assuming that, I think the question that would occur to a lot of people, guys, is why would you pay somebody off for something that you didn't do?
Well, he regretted that he settled that case. He regretted that to this day.
Yeah.
He regretted that. He should have let it go to trial. It's like the first one vindicated. Second trial vindicated. He wished he did the same with the Ryan case.
And you know what? I think that's a very good point because if he had not settled the first trial and the first case and it had gone to trial, I don't think there ever would have been a second one. He made himself a target by paying $30 million to a boy's family. Every ne'er-do-well in America could have come forward and said, hey, look, he pays people. Let's go file a false claim. There weren't any for 10 years. And in 2003, a young boy suffering from cancer alleges that Michael Jackson did untoward things to him. A jury found him not guilty, and I say that's the way we need to remember Michael Jackson.
Thank you.
He was a genius, he was a talented genius, and a tortured soul.
Up next.
They all came right through the gate. Basically almost knocking down the gate. So, they did reach out to him.
The Jackson family stages a drug intervention at the King of Pop's Vegas home.
At Aviva, we wonder why other life insurance companies treat you like a policy, not a person. Instead of getting to know you, they simply assign you a number. Aviva is here to change all that. We're bringing humanity back to insurance and putting people before policies. Aviva Life Insurance and Annuities. We are building insurance around you.
Nature Valley Sweet and Salty Nut Bars. They're made from whole roasted nuts and dipped in creamy peanut butter, making your craving for a sweet and salty bar irresistible. By Nature Valley.
Hey guys, so in 10 minutes, we're gonna head back down the hill.
Down the hill?
All right.
Yeah, we're actually thinking maybe... I got this. I'll catch up with you guys. Got it?
Some things in life they just don't want to see. But if Martin Luther was living, they wouldn't let us be no lovers. All I gotta say is that they don't really care about us.
Welcome back to Special Report as we examine who was the real Michael Jackson. You see, we all know the performer. He was a preteen sensation with the Jackson 5. He wowed the world with his Off the Wall and Thriller and Bad albums. But what about the man behind those hit songs and those unbelievable dance moves? Well, our roundtable panel takes a closer look at the King of Pop's drug problem. he's in pain, and he takes these drugs. How did he feel about that? I mean, you're saying that all this time he didn't like it, he didn't want it, but now he picks it up and takes it.
The doctor said, here, this will help you feel better. It wasn't street drugs at Studio 54. It was a doctor giving it to you, so it's okay. And it is okay if you're in pain. But then you got to be able to set it aside, set it down.
Why couldn't he set it aside?
It was the burn was very severe, very painful to him.
But once the burn healed, as time heals wounds, why couldn't he set it? Could he set it aside, Steve?
And I must say, too, a whole different crowd. He started hanging out with the Hollywood elite with, the Liz Taylors, and those people love to pop pills, bless their soul. I must say, exactly.
And it might have made him feel a little bit more that he wasn't doing, drugs that he was saying.
It's not like going on the corner, street corner.
Right, absolutely.
On that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anthony, you're looking...
No, I think that those situations, I think the point about, their prescription drugs and that sort of thing, a doctor is involved, I think that legitimized it for him. But I think that the drugs, it's more about physical pain. I mean,
like going on the corner, buying up a package on the corner, or going to somebody's house,
I think he felt a little bit more comfortable that he wasn't doing that.
Kind of easing a psychological pain, an emotional pain.
But again, Ryan, Michael Jackson despised drugs, the one I knew.
But that's what I'm trying to get at. He despised drugs. Doctors give him this. He's firm in his convictions that he despises drugs. He takes them because of the pain of that burn. And yet, according to many people, he keeps doing them. If he despised them so much, what, Steve, was stopping him from putting him down? Was there a family member that should have stepped in? Was there someone that should have...
Well, then he had different plastic surgery procedures, and I guess you have to give painkillers for that. So I guess it came... What happened? I can't say what happened. I don't know. It's sad what happened like that, whatever,
Right.
After you start having plastic surgeries after plastic surgeries, you need more and more pain, and the doctor gives it to you.
Right.
So it's okay.
And it's legal.
And it's legal. And there comes a point at which you can't put it down now. And I don't know how many plastic surgeries he had. I have no idea. You can look at the progression of the pictures over time, but it went from one doctor to several doctors, and then, well, as we know, when he died, his nightstand was full of different prescriptions from different doctors.
The very essence of addiction is denial. I think that, when if you're living in a world where nobody's going to really walk up to you and say, Michael, you know what you really have to do? Nobody talks to Michael Jackson that way.
Well, but let's admit, and I don't know if Mike can speak to this or Steve, but I've had several sources tell me that the family tried several times, several interventions. And they were serious attempts at interventions.
They came to
because
Vegas
Catherine Jackson knew her baby boy was hooked on drugs, and they never worked. Not one intervention worked.
Tell me about the intervention that took place in Vegas.
It was in 07, in February of 07, and the family came. And they came early, early in the morning, and they were all there. I believe it was Reby, I think Jermaine was there, another gentleman that was in the car. I couldn't identify him, but they all came right through the gate, basically almost knocking down the gate. So, they did reach out to him.
And what happened?
He went into the security trailer, talked to them. He wanted to do it in private. He didn't allow them to come inside the house. He wanted to talk to them, so he talked to his brothers inside the security trailer for a good, I'd say 20 minutes, and then everybody left. Like I said, we didn't try to get too involved in the family, business. That's for them to take care of, you know what I mean? So we stood back, they talked inside the trailer, and then they left.